Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wealth Within Us. Today I have Brian Anderson. He is from Pareto Consulting and Coaching, and he helps small business and small to medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. And today we are going to talk about this is for you entrepreneurs and small business owners, and this is about never going back to the dreaded 9 to 5. Never. So we're going to talk about how to keep you in entrepreneurship and keep our country and our world booming with small businesses and say goodbye to you big corporate giants stealing us all up. So how is that for an introduction?
Oh, it was tremendous. Thank you so much, Michelle.
So
So
go
there's a
ahead.
lot of beautiful truth to what you said there. But before, so a little bit about me and how I got here. So thank you
Absolutely.
for crossing paths with me and allowing me to be part of your journey, because that's an
Thank
excellent
you.
privilege.
Oh, it is a privilege to have you here with everything that I've heard you say in the last 5 days that I've known you. I like what you and your partner are doing.
Yes, thank you for the kind words. So my partner Adam, he's at home with his children. Him and I have known each other, geez, man, probably over 10 years.
Wow.
And but we both have a background in like maybe I started 20 or 21 at UPS. He worked at Verizon for 13, 14, 15 years. That's actually where I met him, at Verizon Wireless. So anyway, I have this very long background at corporate America, Fortune, 50 and Fortune 10 companies. And there's some really good things that corporate America does get right, like training. Like it trains its
I would
people
agree with
very, very,
that.
very, very well. If you don't pay attention, that's on you. But they have the resources, they understand developing people, even if they then throw you away. So um, uh, collectively, we kind of have a different sorted pass on the consulting side, but I've been consulting on and off for about 20 years. And then the last 3 or so years, maybe, I just ratcheted up that intensity. And I was really within the corporate structure. I transitioned to a very specific senior business consulting role.
Mhm.
But the ethics might be too generalized, but I just didn't feel like we were helping the small person on the terms that I wanted to. So Adam and I have then come together and pivoted to go and venture forth and do this uh, under our own message and branding and ideology, because a big part of both of our, maybe this is a little bit of just aging, right? Fine aging is
Like a
you want to
fine
get,
wine, right? And
yeah,
that's how I think of myself as a nice fine wine.
yeah, the 20-year-old, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go build an empire or whatever.
Yeah, as long as I don't drink and kill myself to death.
Right. You know, um, and then, I find myself approaching 50, and it's like I want to build my community and I want to help people. At least it has to be balanced.
Mhm.
So where we really see a market need is particularly of that small entrepreneur. I always envision it like they have a job, but they have the best boss in the world themselves.
Yes.
So they don't necessarily know anything about business, and they don't know what they don't know, or what they do know for that matter. But they're good at what they do, maybe even great. you know. That's often what leads them down that path is they're super good at it and they're working
And
for somebody else.
passionate, I would say too.
Yeah,
Like that's why most people go into business. Not all,
yeah.
but most, I feel.
So we've kind of branched out, and what we're now rolling out our coaching side, which is really tailored for that smaller business that
Mhm.
that doesn't necessarily have big revenue numbers, so that we can try and assist them and guide them and help them with the stuff they don't know. It's that simple. So how was that? Was that a good introduction? Do you guys know a little bit about
That
me?
was perfect. So you came from corporate, which I did too. And I didn't work in corporate for very long, maybe like, I don't know, 5, 8 probably more like 8 years. I worked in corporate. My experience wasn't so great in the probably late 90s, mid to late 90s. I went on my own in 2000. So I've been on my own for quite a long time and happily have survived. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. There were opportunities, especially I came in with as a marketing major and then quickly fell into graphic and website design. And because I worked for corporate, I was given all this stuff as like someone that didn't go to school for graphic and website design. I was given all the tools and there was no, like, it was like not like this ad agency. So I basically in hindsight got to do everything I wanted. And then of course, I was like, oh, I want this ad agency job. And then I went back to school, got the second degree, got the ad agency job, and absolutely hated it.
Ugh.
So because it was like so micromanaged, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm like concept to completion kind of person. I know all parts of the process, and then they want to like pigeonhole you, and they wanted to, and then it's like
Yeah,
everything
you're
was
so
so,
right.
yeah, it was so watered down by the time it came to me. It was like, this is not fun at all. And that was if you remember the Y2K
Oh
era
yeah. Yeah.
and Y2K, let's just say that the last three jobs I had, corporate jobs I got laid off from. The first job I got laid off from is still in business. The second two companies do not exist anymore. So it's like,
Mm.
don't look at my resume because those companies don't even exist. Because Y2K, it was like it was just laying people off left and right, and companies just fell after the whole thing. And unfortunately, that was where I tended to be.
Yeah. Well, so here you kind of opened up with this. So um let me take a moment and tell you kind of what I see on the corporate landscape. Okay.
Yeah, you've been in it
Uh,
way long. I've been out of corporate for a long time now.
and this isn't intended to be offensive. It's
Mhm.
intended just to be a harsh reality of the design of the machine. Okay.
Well,
The
that's what we're
machine.
here. We're here about truth and
Yep.
there's no sugarcoating things here because what it doesn't do anybody any good.
So maybe Twitter might be a good example. Recently you got this
Okay.
big company. It's a new person comes in and he sees what he determines as bloat. Okay, unnecessary jobs, and it doesn't make him right, it doesn't make him wrong, it just makes his call to make, and he makes that call and a bunch of people's lives are affected. you know um and conceptually, for his vision of um the company, it was in that moment probably the right decision.
Mm.
But the problem is, it was the right decision for this fictitious entity that we call a company, but it's literally a creative design. Like, we made up the word company, we made up the legislation behind a
Yep.
company. Like, all these are just figments of human creativity. Okay. So what it really struggles with, and I would say this is an extension of extreme um market driven capitalism, is the humanization. Is that we're humans too,
Hmm.
and we love and we care about each other, and it ingrained deep down in our DNA is this connection of socialization. So if you look at the data, like, we run our families as a socialized unit. Okay. And the reason socialism sometimes struggles when you scale it is because of lack of trust. So when you're dealing with your mom or your dad or your uncle, there's trust because you're my family. So when you get that pizza, you give them a piece of it anyway. And then it's what trust that kind of breaks down that barrier. So, so what I am really worried about, part of it is just I want to take that knowledge, and I do own multiple small businesses, so which gives me this idea of how to apply some of what I've learned up there, and Adam is similar, and what fits well in these trenches down here with the
Yeah.
smaller individual. But if you think about where that's going, and I think we actually talked about this today at the meeting very briefly, is that small business is the cornerstone from a mentality and from a philosophy standpoint of a healthy nation, because it
Yeah.
means that I want to build something for who? Well, for me and my family. And then once it's successful, for my street and my small neighborhood. And then if I get even more successful, well, then for my city and town, and I want to give and contribute back. And then, of course, the better I can do that and accomplish that, I'm going to create good jobs and I'm going to take care of people. And if I want to, I can create a family environment where people feel welcomed and warm and come to work and smile, and feel like they matter, because they do. Because if I'm the boss, I can create that environment. Okay. Now, the reality is that might be an expense at a small sliver of profitability, right? I might take some of that from over here and I might reinvest it into my people. But everything else we just talked about is concrete and it can't be, measured in dollars and cents.
Yeah. And it gives people purpose. You go back to what you were
Absolutely.
saying about like people who don't have purpose often, like, it's almost like they lose a piece of their humanity,
Yeah.
if that
They're
makes sense.
legitimately lost.
They are. And it's like you just said a few minutes ago, we all are deeply ingrained in there. Even if some of us have lost it, we're still all deep down. We are humans and we care about one another, no matter sometimes how we present ourselves on the outside. And as you just pointed out, a corporation is a fictitious thing that we created because, as free will, we are creators by our very design. We are creators that create. We create everything. We create businesses,
Yep.
products, services. We created government. We created money.
Correct.
Like everything,
Right.
if you think
Right.
about it, we created. But one thing I've read that always stuck in my mind was that it's like, if we're the creators of it, then we can't let it control us. And I think that's where we've gotten. We've let the things that we've created control and dictate our lives.
And we pretend that we can't recreate it or re-envision it or change it
Yes,
and
yeah.
and
Like it's just the
progress
way it is.
forward. Yeah. So let's spin back through this here. So now we got this corporate America, right? And we've got them gobbling up the
Mm-hmm.
little mom pops, and we kind of hit on that. But it doesn't stop there, right? Because as these corporations get bigger and bigger and bigger, you really kind of see a divide, like because they eat up the middle people. They legitimately just buy
Yeah.
competition or whatever, and so
And by
all the
design, that's what they're created to do, is basically by design, whether you want to believe it or not, it is to get rid of the middle class.
yep,
The middle class is the biggest obstacle to wealth and power for the few.
yes, it is. So and I want to take a little moment and just talk about this. I think a lot of people who are in that corporate structure,
Mhm.
they feel like they've made it and they like pay aside, because corporate does tend to
Yeah.
pay okay. But what they don't understand, I see this a lot in things like healthcare, health benefits, maybe life benefits. Um, anyway, so conceptually, like, oh yeah, I'm good. You hurt yourself, and now you're not used to the company. Now they let you go, and now you can't get the medical attention you need because you're hurt. Yeah, and I'm oversimplifying, right? There's
Yeah.
care, and but at the end of the day, it's like they're brainwashed into thinking they're safe, and it's like, no, actually, what you bought into was a system that is actually designed probably to get rid of you at some point. When my dad, we're probably close in age, um, like in so like that 70s, it was like you would stay at a company for 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And now the average person stays at a job for under 3.
Yeah.
So it's a lie they're telling themselves. You just told me you were
It
laid
is.
off twice from a corporate job. Okay. I've been laid off from a corporate job. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's all these people out there that are like, oh, I made it. I've got a good spot. I'm good to go. And it's like, no, no, man, you're good just as long, when AI replaces your job, you've got nothing.
Yeah.
Now that can still happen in small business too, but there's a conversation you can at least have.
Hmm.
Hey man, can we, make a different spot on the team for Michelle? Could she do something over here?
Yeah.
Um, Something like that. So let's
Yeah, it's
dive
kind of
in.
like that philosophy that don't think that you're indispensable, because when you find out that you are, it's a big hurt.
And let's be honest,
Yeah.
I could probably rattle off 20 of my friends that think that way.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. I have a really close friend who we met at UPS back in the days, and he still works there on the driver's side, right? And I kept asking him, like, "Hey, what's going on with the the UPS strike? They ended up sealing, so they narrowly avoided a strike."
Mm.
And he thinks I'm worried about it from the standpoint of like pay or all that, and I'm actually not. I'm worried about it, like, okay, when that strike gets signed, okay, or gets for the new contract, okay, I think they're
Yeah.
up to like $49 an hour is their top rate.
Okay.
So what that immediately triggers on the back end is, okay, we need to do a cost benefit analysis on, like, who can we pay $49,
Mm.
and hey, all those other answers we've been looking at, what's their cost? And the second that cost is like, this is probably a couple years away, but like, hey, can we motorize the fleet so they don't need to drive the truck, and then we can just have a package handler? Why? Because a package handler doesn't need $49 an hour. We pay them $15 an hour. Why? Because all they do is shuttle packages. Okay. And what they're doing is they're creating pressure by, because that's a very large number for a blue collar job, right?
Yeah.
That's guaranteed. So you're at 100K plus for
Hmm.
blue collar work, right?
And I'm sure plus overtime and all the other stuff.
Correct. That does not, they work hard. That is not
Yeah, they
my
do.
point. My point is just the new contract is incentivizing UPS to solve the real problem, which is you guys are costing me too much money.
Yeah. So where are
you
we
know?
going to cut and who are we going to cut?
Yep. And I remember I was actually back there, strike of 97. It was only like 3 weeks long, but um I remember the union fought so hard. They were like, double the jobs, double the jobs, double the jobs. And they finally signed it and said, okay. And then every full timer that retired or got
Mhm.
fired, they just replaced with two part timers. And that's how they doubled it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, come on, see, like, this is a semantics game. But
Yeah. And it almost, it's like people aren't really seeing through. You want this immediate thing, but you're not looking at what's the cost of that immediate thing that you want. Because that immediate thing that you want, you may just not only not get that, but not even get your job.
correct. So let's I'm gonna use this platform to say something that I don't get to say enough. I
Okay.
I
Feel
would
free. This is a
I would
truth
encourage
zone.
that together, we all really just take a moment. We talked about reinventing and redefining. We
Mhm.
created these ideas. You know, at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, we need to stop talking in terms of money, or at least add a very strong component of quality of life.
Yeah.
Like, that's our goal. And you see this in business, when you define the goal differently,
Hmm.
you hit the target. A great business does what it's supposed to do efficiently, and with prediction. So, well, what if it was supposed to take care of its people and its workers and give them a good life? Like,
Yeah.
wow, man, that would change the landscape. So,
Yeah. And who wouldn't give up, say, $10 an hour for that? Knowing that
absolutely,
you're, because we talk about like financial health, so to say, but what about your personal health? So how much is your financial aspirational and wealth hurting your physical health? Like at what point are you just not even enjoying life? Because you
yeah,
want that $10 an hour job. And I know back in the 90s, like when I was working corporate, honestly, if you wanted a raise, you literally had to go get another job because
yeah,
you probably weren't getting it anytime. And I can only imagine that it's the same now. So if you want more money, you're going somewhere else. So it's like, it's almost created this system of, well, not only are the employers not loyal to their employees aren't loyal either. So it's like, it's created this mass of distrust
yeah,
and exactly what you just said. Who's in it just for living a good life?
yeah. And it looks different than what we're currently painting.
It really does.
So, uh, thank you for entertaining my tangents.
No, I think I think that those what I try to bring is the things that people aren't talking about. We can all talk about the obvious, and maybe some of what we talked about is obvious, but it's more uncover what's the unobvious or the thing that people aren't saying. What are the things that people aren't saying? That's true.
So, but let's talk to the people that, hey, I'm tired of that. Maybe
Yep.
I've been beaten down. So I'm leaving my 9 to 5
Yeah.
and I'm never going back, right?
And I think
So
that more and more people are leaving their jobs. It's like you hear these
I
numbers and stuff
agree.
about like, oh, there's people aren't taking the jobs. There's so many jobs available, and it's like the mass exit or what I forget what they call it. But anyway, I think
What
for
a
me,
quiet quitting,
the
if you
quiet
will.
quitting, it's like people are quietly starting their own businesses, and no one's talking about that. Everybody's sitting around that people are just sitting around for years now collecting unemployment. Well, it doesn't really work that way. I mean, I
Nope,
think
it does
people are
not.
leaving and they're starting their own businesses. They're becoming 1099 um contractors and things like that. And no one's talking about that.
And
But
it's
that's where it's
interesting.
going. And we need to help these people never have to go back to that 9 to 5 that they left because they left for a reason. And probably the biggest reason was their mental health.
Yes. So the way I see it does not make me 100% right, but if I look at the motivation, I try and understand, what has changed to say in 20 years. And the answer is something like, one of the things, like I said, corporation is currently anyway very predictable. So
Yes.
what it tries to do is it reduces the skill level of a job so that anyone can do it. In allowing anyone to do it, I've opened up the ability to hire more competition for that same position, aka repressing the wage that I pay. But what that really does is it makes almost the job repetitive and dumb and not challenging, right?
And it makes us as a society not innovative either.
Correct. So
We're not
so
critically thinking, we're not problem solving, we're not
right.
innovating.
And so on the society level, it's hurting.
Mm-hmm.
But then also on that level of the individual, I'm not feeling fulfilled.
Yeah.
And over time, we all have a different breaking point. But when we get there, we're just like, cool, I'm done. I'm out. I don't know what I'm going to do, but this is dumb. Right? So
I
we
know.
walk
I
away.
I 100% agree. And they're like, my talents are being wasted. My voice isn't being heard. I'm not being paid enough. Da, 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 da.
Yeah. And,
Laundry
and
list.
and maybe a real simple way, I don't feel useful,
Yep.
needed, and important,
Yeah.
which is part of that being heard, right? So um let me take a moment and let me put the frame of this, the not or doing your own thing, going, finding your own path. Um, a little shock and awe here. If you find yourself as the type of person that historically you haven't been a great leader, historically you don't have good discipline for yourself, I'm mostly talking about. Um, you may struggle on this path, okay? So be warned. And I'm gonna talk about the positives going forward, not the negatives, but just understand that the path isn't right for everybody. Trying to figure something out, it's hard work
Mm-hmm.
and it has great payoffs, and you can definitely get to the point with some intentional direction where you aren't working hard, but it's usually not like that at the beginning. Okay. So it's not right for everyone. There are some, I don't know, I guess my mind wants to visualize them as sheeples that are out there and
Yep.
that are a good fit for corporate America. And
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
they'll get fired from job A, and 2 days later they'll be at the biggest competitor at the same job. And they'll just be like, I'm happy, great. But
Yeah.
for those who want more, for those who want to find their own way, let's take some moments and talk through that, if you would.
Okay.
Okay. So the first thing is, assuming that you get through that, um, a lot of people don't understand. This is like the most common mistake. So here is like the very first nugget of, I want to do something. What should it look like? What is that first step?
Mm,
And the first step is understanding that a great business solves a need somewhere in the market. Okay. And that means it kind of looks one of two ways. You can either do something that's not being addressed at all,
mhm.
or you can do something in a different or better way.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll be honest, with low capital, the first one's hard to do because, okay, how do you invent like a new way to do things? I don't know, maybe something as simple as like the Uber app, right? How do you
Yeah.
invent that if you have no capital? Yeah,
Yeah.
you know. Um, so that's difficult, but you can do that. So what a lot of people do is they go, I'm good at X,
Mhm.
but they skip the whole part where they go, yeah, but is X needed? And I'll go something
Yeah.
simple like uh the I think I brought up a plumber today. You know, I'm a plumber. I want to be a plumber. And don't get me wrong, you can throw yourself in there and you'll probably get some jobs, but you're probably not going to be a huge slam dunk unless you're doing something different than the
Mhm.
competitors. Okay. And people miss that. You know, they just go, well, what's Frank and John doing? And they do what Frank and John are doing. And now you've just got three, and now you're just splitting up that same revenue over three people. Uh, and none of you are a slam dunk.
Yeah. And
There's a
and say all those three people, they're all dependable, reliable, same skill set, can all get the job done. So yeah, so what how are you standing out in what you're doing? What makes you different from A
yeah.
and B?
And so there's a great line that Adam loves to use called I should hope so,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And did he drop that on you?
Yeah, but these people need to hear it because I
They
mean,
do.
it's
They
like
do.
it's like
So
you know it, but when you hear it, you're like, yeah,
when you're like, oh yeah, well, you know what I'll do? I'll show up on time. Well, I should hope so.
yeah.
Well, I'll do what you paid me to do. I'll fix the pipe. Well, I should hope so. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever it goes through the well, I should hope so test, it's actually telling you that that's the bare minimum to do what you think you're doing. So you're not special.
Yeah,
Okay. And it doesn't mean that you can't eke it out. You will. You probably can, but you'll never get to that real level of success where you're like, man, I'm turning down jobs left and right. So that's the first thing is figure out, in my whatever your niche is, what is being missed, and a lot of times maybe it's stuff that's gone too far. So it used to be there, now it isn't. Or like I was thinking about this for you. This is so for you, take this to heart, but it's so horrible that your competitors are like this. I've worked probably with 10 different people in the website and web design. And the most recent one I used, I said, cool, man, don't care. They're rattling on, like, don't care. Just tell me the deadline of when you're going to have it done. The
mm.
dude legitimately said, I don't like how you're talking to me, and hung up.
Oh.
And I'm like, and Adam's like, dude, that was hilarious. All you said, I'm good with all of it. Just tell me when it's going to be
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
And this idea of an actual hard deadline, and that's all that mattered because I wouldn't let him establish value in any other
yeah,
way. Now, for me, it was my experience. It's like, no, like, I mean, I get it that there's a lot of creativity involved in this, and I'm not trying to underplay that. But from the other end, I just want to know when I can tell people to go to my website.
exactly. Yeah.
you
And
know?
yeah, there's a balance between being creative and getting the job done. And that's just where it is. Like,
So,
yeah,
so at least from Brian's point of view, there's a perceived weakness in web development.
yeah,
You do get a lot of creative types, and I would say the younger generation is even farther into the creative. And
yes,
what they're missing is the discipline part of like, yeah, but hey, how many hours of work is that? 10? Okay, so that's a day. You could get that done in a day if you tried hard. Well, no, you could. We just talked it through. Like there's 24
yeah,
hours in a day.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Technically, you could. Would it be the best project you ever delivered? Probably not. But
no, right?
could you do it? Yes, you could. And I think it's like what you're saying. It's like what am I doing differently? Or I think also, what value can I add that other people aren't adding? Like with my website design business, I do a lot of copywriting for people.
Yeah,
Because people
that's
are
another huge area.
clueless on how to write their website.
So that would be the second thing.
So what value are you adding to your new business venture
Yeah,
that
and
other people are not?
so all right, let's start there. So we've got our idea coalescing.
Yes.
Here's the
We're
next
creators.
here's the next step, okay? Is we got to
True.
understand that right now it's only an idea in our head.
Mm-hmm.
The way we really see if it's a good idea is we throw it out there into the shark infested waters. We see if our customers agree.
Yes.
Our customers, okay? It's their opinion that matters, not our ego. So we throw it out there. We'll talk a little bit about sales and marketing in a second, okay? And then what happens is we immediately start getting feedback. It's either going well, people are buying it, or whatever that looks like, or it's not, or something in between.
Yeah.
But now that we have data
And
coming
am
in,
I explaining it right? Do people get what I'm doing? Is it clear and simple? So it may be
yeah,
that you are filling that need, but you're not putting it across that in a way that people can understand. And I find that some
right.
can be challenging too.
And let's just, here's where the rubber meets the road. That customer feedback is the most powerful thing you
Mm.
could ever have in your business. They're telling you the roadmap to success.
Yes.
They're telling it.
And they're also giving you your copy. Hint.
Yes, yes. So we
The
just
best
have
copy
to,
comes from what your customers and clients are saying, or potential ones.
yeah, we just have to listen, you know? So let me take a little bit moment. I said there's an amazing book. It's one of my top called Ready, Fire, Aim.
Mm-hmm.
But here's another concept of entrepreneurship or doing it your own way that people sometimes don't keep in focus. Sales is always the most important part of any company, including yours, because it's where the whole process starts. Now, sales looks different for every company,
Mm-hmm.
but its goal is to accomplish the same thing. Whatever you say you're going to do is to drum up the traction. I always vision it as leads, but that's probably just my, some of my specific sales background. But orders coming in.
Yeah.
How am I managing that? How am I creating it? How am I going out and getting more? Okay. Um, and
And what
if
am I
that's,
doing with the money that's bringing it in? How am I
yeah,
spending it? Am I pissing it away? Or am I investing it? Or am I putting it in things that are going to make my life easier?
and just understand you can never skimp on that first part, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you've got no clients, you've got no money.
Yeah.
You could have the most wonderful, and what that tells you from your customers is you're not reaching the customers, or you're not reaching them with the right message.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's fixable, but so it's always sales first. How do I get them and hope, because if you can't get their attention, you have no chance of delivering that
Oh.
amazing product that you figured out, you know? Um, so the next thing, is there any questions that or comments that you want to squirrel off on a tangent or anything before
I
I
think
keep rambling?
I think we're good. I think we're good. So we are entrepreneur. We decided we're going to leave. We're
Yeah.
passionate about what we do. We now
Okay.
know what makes us
So
different and how we stand out and what value we add. And now we know that we need to bring in sales to keep this engine running so we don't have to
yep.
go back to the 9 to 5. All right. We're on the
So
train.
one last thing on the sales. You don't have to do the sales.
Hmm.
You just have to be committed. I say this all the time to people. I've said it briefly to you. I won't embarrass you here on the podcast. Okay. You don't have to, as the owner, as the head mofo in charge, okay? You do not have to do everything,
Yes.
but you are responsible to make sure it gets done if it's important. Okay.
And if you
So,
want to keep your customers.
Correct. Or your
and get
business.
more. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So Adam and I were having a chuckle about, man, you always pay your taxes. And then it somehow spun into Capone and just like, nope, they always figure out you never get away with that one.
Nope.
Uh, so so like if you're somebody who's not great with sales, you can outsource it or you could hire a salesperson.
Hmm.
There's solutions, but you have to accept that responsibility.
And if you're not good with the money, hire a bookkeeper, hire an
Absolutely.
advisor. There's somebody out there to help you with every part of your business. I've often heard, you've probably heard it too. It's like the best artists or the most successful artists aren't always the best. They just know how to market themselves the best. And they might not be. So think of how much
Yep.
talent we've never seen out there. Kind of makes you
Yep.
think.
Um, so
Don't be
so
the starving artist.
yeah. So building from that, the next thing I just want to make sure is take a moment, if you're that budding entrepreneur and you don't want to go back and take a moment, breathe in, find that, Zen center and have that honest conversation with
Yeah.
yourself. Why? What dream, what path? You and I were talking a little bit about goals today.
Mhm.
Okay, if you had a successful business, well, what does a successful business look like? 1.2 million a year, and I'm making 200K. Okay, cool. How many hours a week? 35 most of the time. I'm okay with occasional spikes to 50, but I want to be able to get off when I need off. Great. Cool. I think most people, I mean, I'm building into work-life balance into my narrative,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Which is
So,
why people most of the time leave.
right. So now you go, great. But we got to slow down and ask ourselves, okay, how important is that to
Yeah.
you? Because at the end of the day, there's going to be easy days. There always are. But what really makes us successful is the hard days. I know you loosely have some like background in wealth creation, right? Um,
Yeah.
I, I, I
Good
can't
mindset and yeah.
I can't quote the numbers off the top of my head, but if you miss like the top 20 days in the Dow Jones from an investing standpoint, you lose like 80% of the gains. It's crazy, So if you just would have missed the top 20,
Okay.
now invert that. Like the hardest days, if you fail in the hardest moments, you don't know. It could really hurt your business. And
Yeah.
if you're not willing to work hard, why would somebody work hard for you? So you got to lead from the front, and that's not going to be easy.
Well, it
It's going to
almost sounds like you're saying where you gotta connect with your own why as to why I'm doing this. Like I left and it's like it's part of like that beginning thing, but it's like connecting to your why is what gets you through those hard days. Why am I doing this again? Even if
yep,
it's just as simple as I'm doing this so I don't have to go back to that 9 to 5. I mean,
correct.
it's a little bit more deeper than that, for my family, for my future, for whatever it is, for your own reasons, like and it'll change like my
Yes, it
kids
will.
are grown, they're 22, and it's like, so am I doing it so that I can spend time with my kids anymore? No, it's now changed, and like, no, I want it so I can have my beach house and I can live at the beach full time and these other things. So my why has changed, even though I'm still kind of doing the same thing, but I've brought in obviously new things like this podcast and other things like that. So it almost sounds like this piece that you're talking about, in addition to it, it's connecting to your why. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing this?
I love the word why, right? And here's the brass tacks. The why and believing in it and being honest and committed. Commitment is the word, right? That
Hmm.
goes hand in hand with the why. That's what is going to get you through those dark moments. Okay.
Yeah.
And for me, I always go to dieting. We know what to do.
Yeah.
We
It's
know
a
what to
perfect
do.
example for that. Yeah.
Okay. But we make up way too many
Mhm.
intentional mistakes.
Yeah. And
And
excuses.
yep. So in business, like when I can't tell you, and you'll have to chat with Adam about this because he knows it's how true. The first so we do like a boot camp. Let's say if,
Mhm.
if I'm on site, 6-week project, I'm on site with you, right? Week one, I'm doing exploration. and I'm building rapport. And I think in general, because I tend to try and be honest, and I tend to try and care. I build rapport pretty easy. But then, you know, for lack of a better word, hard Brian comes out.
Yeah, it's like, oh, meet nice Brian first, because nice Brian establishes trust and relationships with people. Then
Yeah, and I'm
when they
just like,
take that hardcore Brian, it's like, oh, but he's a nice guy, and I know he only has my best interest at heart.
and it gets so much worse because I go, hey, Michelle, listen, what you need right now is some help with like, I'm using you as a guinea pig. I hope you're
That's
okay
okay.
with discipline, okay, and a reminder of your why, okay.
Yeah, it's that personal responsibility. It's my business. It's like,
Yeah,
here's my personal responsibility in this business. That's why I can't stand when so many business owners like they want all this stuff for nothing, but I'm good at it. I am. So just give me this and give me this. And it's like, well, where's your skin? Where's your skin in the game? Like, no,
yeah,
like, and
yeah,
that's like people like that are just handed a business. Like, here you go, make some money, and here's a business. Like, well, where's your skin in the game? There's
yeah,
no personal responsibility off the bat.
yeah. Uh so and the funny thing is, you know, outside of those hard moments, you understand that I was doing it because I care about you and because I'm
Yeah.
committed to if this is what you're struggling with, you
Mhm.
know, maybe you could think of like an alcoholic who wants another drink or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Not on my watch. Why? Because that's the commitment I made, and that's what the help you need right now.
Yeah. And that's when you
Um,
connect back with your own why in those
the
moments.
why. It's all about the why because we know what to do most of the
Yeah.
time, or a little nudge, you know. Um, it's the lack of doing, you know. Um, so we kind of talked about the why. So check that why. Then once you're ready for that, um, I think the last thing I would sprinkle, because you're ready to go off and running at that point.
Yeah.
If you've got your, I figured something out that I think the market needs. I know how I'm going to sell it, or I have somebody, you know, a way to do it. I know that feedback, or particularly right off the bat, is super important to me. Okay, and then I pivot and adjust based off of what my customers are really telling me. Okay, great, and I'm committed to doing the work, whatever that work is. I'm going to work hard. The way I always envision that is if you're making tiny steps forward, okay, let's say towards that beach house, you're eventually going to get the beach house.
Yeah.
That's awesome, you know. And then
I love living in my beach house.
yeah, you know, and then it's like, and so the last thing I think I would sprinkle, and maybe this is a little bit because it's in my wheelhouse, is you're not alone, man. You're
Yeah.
really not. You know, business owners, like look at the group we were at today. You know, just hey, you could bounce it. You know, hey, you know, what are your guys' ideas about this? And you would get some
Hmm.
creative energy. Of course, I wouldn't have a job if people didn't need my creative energy and my experience. You know, but it's true. Like part of why I do this is so that I can say, hey, listen, man, let me help you. You know, and I would say, you know, the best jobs that I'm on, it's not my ideas, it's
Yeah.
me just helping you with your ideas. That's the
Hmm.
best jobs that I'm on, is because, you know, if I can show you how to fish, oh my God, like
Yeah.
you're gonna build the empire, you know? So so that's the last piece of the puzzle is just to understand that you feel alone sometimes, but you're not, you know. That doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean, you know, maybe little Timmy on the team is a little slow and he isn't the guy to help you through this. But there are people and there's
Yeah.
networks and
There
there's
are.
answers, you know. Um,
Especially nowadays, there's online groups, there's
oh man.
coaching programs. I mean, it is out there. I mean, I I've lived in a couple of different places, and I've always found a networking group. And if you can't, there's always online. So you can always connect and reach out to other people that are, even if they're not in the same business, they still understand and they get it.
So I rambled here. Finish with a open forum questions uh, on this topic. How
Okay.
do you feel?
I feel good. So if I put myself in my own, like where I'm at, and I apply those rules, what do we do? Because I think that every entrepreneur comes up to this is like, where we hit where we I don't want to say hit the wall, but like, all right, we're here. We're how do we move forward? So I've
So
got the thing going, and I think sometimes relatively quickly people hit that wall, and that's where people want to jump off. And our topic is never going back to the 9 to 5. So
right,
when we hit those walls, which we will, how do we get back on track and not be like, all right, I'm shutting it down? And I especially say this for people who are like myself. I'm a one person show, and it's a little different if you've got a couple of people working for you,
I
because
agree.
those
Resources.
people will keep you going, because even if it's not from you, you want to keep these people employed. But if you're just by yourself, like I am, and you hit these walls, because I'm probably not the first to say that my income goes like this.
Yep.
It's not really been consistent in a couple of years. At one point it was, but definitely the last several years, it's been definitely inconsistent. And I'm not gonna lie, there have been times when I'm like looking on LinkedIn and like, oh, maybe I'll just apply for some like 1090 job. And I've done it. I mean, I've never taken any of them, and I've never done that. But like, how do we get through those times? Because I think those are critical
Awesome question.
make or break moments.
So I think for me, I simplify this into two causations, to two areas, right? The first is I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is I kind of know what to do, but I don't want to do it. So I would start there.
Okay.
Let's talk about silo A. I would map out, and it might take some time, but the reality is it's not costing you a lot of energy because like brainstorming,
Yeah.
it takes mental energy, but not time. It doesn't take
Yeah.
months.
No, it doesn't. And can I add something to that, just from my own personal experience? I think also from my own personal experiences, you need to take a step back. Like, when
Yes,
you
very
are
well
in
said.
the thick of the crap, you're not thinking very good. And that's also a time not only when you have to step at, but I don't care who it is, even if it's like your sister or your best friend that hasn't a freaking clue what you're doing, like just get them in, because sometimes even you just talking and venting,
Yeah.
you're generating ideas while you're talking about it, and they've got a completely outside opinion and a view of your business, even if they don't understand it, that might spark some ideas to you. So I'm totally on board with what you're saying, but as a
So
precursor to that, don't jump in when you're in the thick of it. Take at least a breath or a day, even, or whatever.
so this is really good. So there's another one of my favorite books, the E Myth, and it's about you have to work on your business, not in
Yes.
it. Sometimes we work in it,
And
and
working
that's
on your business is working on yourself simultaneously. Just
it is.
that out there, because
So if
I have being an entrepreneur is a self is like a fast track self growth path.
Yeah, it is, but that's good.
It is.
So still in this first silo, I would say, and I love this exercise. I slow down with people, like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
come up, come up to that, 2,000 mile view,
Yeah.
slow down, and I go, what is the best vision of how this looks? And what I'm asking is, what is the outcome? Well, I wish I could do this and this and this.
Mm.
Well, what are the things that would get you closer to that? Because I think what we do is we build steps without the destination. And if you're like, you don't know where you're trying to go to, how are you building steps there that go that direction? And what
Yeah.
it translates to is you put band-aids. Okay. Instead of doing the right thing, you take some steps in a direction, but you didn't slow down and define the right direction. So the result is way suboptimal. And that can create a negative feedback loop where you're like, oh, I tried really hard and it didn't get what I wanted it to do.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I do that again? So but believe it or not, silo one is very solvable, because you could just take maybe 3 months and once a week take 2 hours and do a creative brainstorm and kind of map out what that vision would look like.
Mm.
What do I need? I need an answer here. What would it be a really good answer, and really define it? Okay. So another thing that I do with entrepreneurs, I use what's called the EOS system, the entrepreneurial operating system. It's off of Gino Wilkman or Winkman. Um, but it's just so easy. It's really, really chewable. So I don't reinvent the wheel. If I'm working with somebody new, I'm like, here, this is an amazing. There's so much resources out there. Um, and he's called it's the vision tracking organizer, right? And
Hmm.
it's about creating the vision for your company and keeping it in focus so you can make all the decisions in your day to day through that lens. Okay.
Mm,
So what we're really talking about is kind of redefining that, All right, maybe we've grown or maybe we've stagnated. Well, what does it look like now? My bookkeeping's going to shambles. Well, what would good bookkeeping look like? Right? If you
yeah.
don't know what it would look like, how the hell
Yeah.
are you looking for something?
Yeah.
But the
So,
beautiful
so
thing,
search out what you want, what that looks like.
yep. Now here's the beautiful thing. Once you got the painting, figure out how you're going to get it painted. That's easy. Maybe
Yeah.
not easy to do it, but it's easy to. All right,
Like, is
I need
this
a
paint by
bookkeeper.
numbers?
Yeah, like
Color
because you're,
one, okay, that goes there. Color four, that goes over here.
you know. Now the second silo is harder, okay, because that's a commitment problem again. But we all have moments where either our commitment is waning or it's just shifted. It's not that we're not committed; we're just not committed to this anymore. You see that a
Okay.
lot with like burnout ideas, right?
Mm.
Like this job has just taken 20 years of my life, and I just don't want to be here anymore. There's nothing that's going to change that quickly. That's harder, okay? Um,
So would things like, okay, technology's taking over what I'm doing. There's something that has come in that's now taking
yeah,
over what I'm doing, which I mean it's totally happened in my business. Things like Canva and Fiverr and Wix and all of these things. So like I'm constantly having to pivot. So just to clarify, so do situations like that where like I'm going along and things are going great, and all of a sudden these new things are encroaching in on and taking these pieces of mine. Does that fit into this, or is this something different?
I think it would.
Okay. Because
Because
that's a big thing, especially now. Like things are
anything
moving
that cripples
super
your
fast.
motivation, anything that cripples your
Okay.
motivation. And the reason I bring that up is because so even if I could show you what to do about
Hmm.
it, if the fire's not lit, that's hard.
Yeah,
That's
that's
real
true.
hard.
That's
That's
true.
real hard. You
Yeah.
know, so um this is a little bit like elite. I would never get this in the first couple weeks or months of coaching, but you do want to like one thing you want to steal from like that corporate design is we're trying to create a machine. Okay. And each part of the machine, people do the work, but the machine creates the outcome, the processes,
Okay.
and the systems. Okay. And you want it to do it repeatably and reliably. Okay. And that's really the definition of a great, so if you figured out the thing that the market needs, well, you need to be predictably able to produce it, right?
Yes.
Okay, and in a timely fashion. So that's really hard. If the gasoline, if the fire
Oh,
that would either
yeah.
do some of those things or motivate the other people to do those things is missing.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I worked for a company once where the two owners basically like they were both like they had other businesses and they were about ready to like get rid of this one. In fact, that's one of the companies that on my resume that is no longer in business, because it was like they were on the way out and it didn't matter really what the problem was because they were on to their next thing already. And there was and but yet like they wouldn't let anybody take that. They had such a strong sense of like, well, it's my company, that they wouldn't even
yeah,
let somebody come in and take it over. And eventually it went out of business anyway, because that's what happened. But
yeah,
it
because a
seems to
lack of
go
love,
along with what exactly what you're saying. Now, in their case, they went on to their own other thing, but it did leave other people
high and
without
dry.
a job.
Yeah. So I think in that moment, it's a simple gut check
Yeah.
and a moment of honesty. So after if you go look in that mirror um and stoke the coals as much as possible, you either find it and it reignites and you go, I need to, follow this as far as I can. Uh but
Yeah.
then but then you'll probably get it because you got lost in the woods, or maybe you needed somebody to help you. This is like a lot of my projects. Like I come in and they're just feeling defeated, and I'm like, "You ready to get to work?" And they're like, "What? Who are you?" And I'm like, "Answer the question." And they're like, "All right, I guess so." And I'm like, "Cool, let's go." And by day 3, they're like, "Dude, this is awesome." I'm like, "Yeah, man, let's go, let's rock." Yeah, today we're gonna do this. We're gonna figure this out. Blah, 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 blah. We're gonna reinvent this. Oh, this is stagnant. AI is attacking me from the side. Cool. What are we gonna do about it? And I just get them to admit that we should do something. I'm like, great, cool. Here's what something looks like, and we start
Yeah.
tinkering, right?
Because a lot of times you like wipe those things under the rug. You're like, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm
Yeah,
not going to deal with that. You're not going to deal with that until it's like right here. And you're
yeah,
like, shit, I got to deal with
yep, dude. And even the big guys do this, man.
Yeah. Well, that's
Like,
how things like Blockbuster and all
yep.
these places go out of business. It's like, duh, it was on your doorstep.
So, and then if the coals don't respark, right? Just be honest, man.
Yeah.
In that moment, say, what is the best salvage for this? Maybe I sell it to somebody who does have a fire.
Hmm.
Maybe I go in and go, hey guys, just want to let you know this is not going to end well. Start looking for jobs or whatever. I'm filing, but I'm giving everybody a month notice, whatever. Because the sooner you move on to something like this, is just a building that's slowly
Hmm.
collapsing, right? Like the longer you
And most
stay,
of the time, those employees you have, they're aware.
yeah, they are. They
Admitting
are.
it or not, they're feeling it.
Yeah, so it's really like the Titanic sinking. The worst thing
Yeah.
you could do is stay on the deck until the water level's up to here, and then go, oh, what am I gonna do now?
Yeah. Oh, I
Like,
guess I need a life raft or a life vest. And you're like,
where
well,
did everybody
they're,
go?
they're all gone.
Yeah. So, but in that moment of honesty, there's still a chance to of rebirth for something else.
Okay. That makes sense. So I have one more quick question and then I want to get to your book. So my
Yeah,
last question is, what do you think, and this may be loaded, what do you think, because we are talking about never going back to the 9 to 5, but what about those of us that are tiptoeing in both worlds?
that's a really good question. Okay,
And a lot of people are in that situation. So I
so
wanted to address it.
it's really about what do you want from that second world. And if your answer is not much, okay, then you don't have much skin in the game, and that's all
Yeah.
right. Um, and if the answer is a lot, you've kind of defined the path for yourself. So it's really about that commitment level.
Hmm.
I know lots. It would be like no different than having a night job, right? You got
Yeah.
your main job, but after work you go pump gas or something.
Yeah.
It's never going to be your primary care, so I wouldn't expect a home run. If you get lucky, sure you can pivot.
Hmm.
Um, but the underlying thing that still should be a concern of yours is the commitment.
Yeah.
It was always second. Now invert that to that second, honor where like, no, I really want to figure this out, but I just need some money to pay the bills until I do.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's still a really healthy place to be because now the bad thing is the timing is getting distorted, right? You know,
Yes.
like what you could get done in a year might take 5, you
And if you
know.
have employees, sometimes the employees' view on that is that, well, where are your commitments? Are they to this or that? So I think you can kind of be ambiguous and to other people as well.
And if I were giving just my flat out advice, which I kind of am right now, I would invert that. I would say, okay, what are you worried about? You want to go get capital for 2 years? Well, go get a loan, or whatever. It could be collateralized, whatever, and go at it hard
Yeah.
because deep down inside you're committed to it, and you're
Yeah.
selling your dream short by not trying.
And it's ultimately a lack of faith, a lack
Yep.
of faith that it will work out to a
Be
certain degree.
brave.
And I get it. We all got to eat. We
Yeah.
all want a roof over our head and a certain level of lifestyle. And
Yep.
I think, yeah, I think if you go into that and you know your why, and as we say here on The Wealth Within Us, if you define your wealth, which is very close to what is your why, then it will lead you there. Perfect.
Yeah.
I love all this. Well, I know that you and your business partner have written a book. that is
Yeah.
coming
So
out, available on digital, and it will be published. So now let's talk about the book. Let's talk about you and your book.
absolutely. So the name of the book is The Bottom Line. And it's a short book. It's not super, like 94 pages. And it's really a quick teaser into
Mhm.
in our history about 12 different things that you can quickly look at in your business that can help you drive profitability. And one of the things that people don't understand or forget is that it's compounding. If you fix a little bit here, 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 you don't just get the sum of those things, you get the sum of their impact, which is often, compounding, right?
Yes.
And of course, then the companion to that, because it isn't necessarily all about money, but it's like, hey, but if you did have more money, could you hire a bookkeeper? Yep.
Mhm.
Could you treat your employees better? Yep. Could you do this? Could you have that beach house? Could yep. Would you have a better retirement? Yep. Are all those things important to you? Yep. Then why aren't you doing it? you know, so sounds like we should
Oh,
at
I
least
ask myself every day.
sounds like we should at least try these things,
Yes. Yeah.
so that's basically, what we wanted to do in creating this, and there'll be more down the line, but uh, we wanted, how could we get a simple, I mean, it's definitely, the short version, right? But I want something that I could walk to you and I could be like, just in case I never see you again, Michelle, here, because we give it away for free right now.
Yeah.
At least we've committed to the first 200 copies. Digital is a little easier because it doesn't
Yeah.
cost us anything, but for free, because it's about sticking to our vision and commitment, which is trying to help small entrepreneurs with the information that they don't have or have never learned. And they're feeling lost and they're struggling and they're
Yeah.
feeling alone. And, here's a couple ideas. It's what we've found, like I said, the 12 hot buttons that really can make a quick impact to turn it around.
Yeah. And like you said, it's a quick read, so you're not going to be daunted down, but it sounds
Nope.
very actionable. So I'm waiting for my copy, but I have a feeling that just getting to know you a little bit, that those steps are going to be not only actionable, but impactful.
Yes, they are. They are. Um,
So where can people get in touch with your book? Where
all
can
right.
people get
So,
in touch with Pareto Impact?
so we have, our social media comes and goes because we do it all ourselves. uh, but our website is paretoimpact.com. And then our coaching website, which is, it's a little bit different field. Like I said, we started with like bigger business
Mhm.
consulting. So the coaching is coaching dot paretoimpact.com. And that has more of, like there's a do-it-yourself information
Yeah.
kit in there, some stuff like that. That's where you could find the book, because that's where we think are the target audiences, is more, the small business
Mhm.
owner. Um, we have our Facebook. We have a blog and a YouTube, but I just don't have the time right now. But my vision
Gotcha.
is to at least do teaser stuff and almost similar to you, just do some visual,
Yeah.
short form, educational things. Hey, here's how to do this. I think I have one posted right now that's on like how to do pricing correctly, and
Okay.
to
That's very
how to
helpful.
do, yeah. So what people screw up on pricing, here's a teaser, right? Is like, you want to create an organic formula that determines your price.
Mhm.
Okay. It's not accidental, right? That's it. It's that simple, So if this little doohickey goes up by 2 cents, well, then your price should go up by 2 cents.
Mhm.
And there shouldn't be a thought. It should be like, no, of course it goes up. Why? Because everything else was priced by design.
Yes.
It's called profit engineering.
Okay.
You know, so the idea is like, hey, if I had this much profit, I could do these many good things. Yeah. So why would you ever waver on that dream?
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Because again, we never want to go back to the 9 to 5.
no, no to the 9 to 5.
No to the 9 to 5. I feel like I should have a picket sign.
I know.
But we will have all of that information in the description wherever you are watching this content. So do not worry if you did not get that. It will be up for everyone. And Brian, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I'm so glad, because I know I asked you last minute to do this. So I'm so glad that you took the time out tonight to sit and have a conversation with me about something very important. And that is not only saving our middle class, but building up entrepreneurs and small businesses again.
Truly honored.
Thank you so much. And until the next episode of The Wealth Within Us, I will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.